Hello, thanks for joining me for your June monthly horoscope for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Every time I drop a video, you'll get an alert. Also, if you'd like to ascend above your zodiac sign forecast and embrace more serious astrology, check out my very special offer. A character analysis and a 12-month forecast, 30% off, will give you searing insights into your future prospects and also help you to understand what makes you tick at a deeper level. This is based on your time, date and place of birth and is totally unique to you. No two charts are the same. Please see the link below for more. Hello Libra and welcome to your monthly horoscope for June. The key word which really sums up your situation as this month begins is freedom. We could add to that independence, adventure, travel, higher education. All of this is because the Sun, Mercury, your ruler, Venus and the North Node are all gathered in your 9th house. And of course in your sister air sign of Gemini. So feeling that you can move around in a less restricted way is going to be an important part of what feeds your sense of well-being. But with the lockdown having been so restrictive over the last year, we still may not be quite as free to do as we wish. And as this month begins, Mercury is in a retrograde, which goes on to the 22nd. So if you're discussing a contract or there is some kind of issue around an agreement which requires a lot of analysis, care is required, particularly in week 1. This is because Neptune, the planet of dreams, but also of compassion, which has been in your sector of sacrifice since 2012, is competing with Mercury in a less than helpful way. And this can have a tendency, particularly with Mercury's retrograde, to just blur the edges, to make it more difficult to grapple with the finer detail of situations. What's going to help you in the first week, however, is the Sun is forging a very stable link to Saturn. Now, Saturn gets a bad press, but it does provide the glue, the discipline which holds things together. So if you're studying on a course and you really need to apply yourself, do you know that first week, if you can push out all the distractions that the square between Mercury and Neptune could create, could actually see you make some real progress. But also your ruler Venus moves on the 2nd of this month into the most visible part of your horoscope. This is known as the 10th house or the mid-heaven. Here Venus over the following 28 days gives you a tremendous ability to cultivate people and relationships in a more professional capacity. And of course last month Jupiter, planet of expansion and good fortune, also moved to your 6th house of work where it joined up with Neptune. So Jupiter and Venus collaborating together can be a very lucky combination. So if you are applying for a job, you can make sure the terms of reference are absolutely crystal clear, because remember, with Mercury squaring with Neptune, there could be a little bit of distortion or confusion, and you can represent yourself with conviction, the Sun in a great angle to Saturn, then you could have it all together and make a great impression. Now by the 10th of this month, we do have a very powerful solar eclipse, also in the sign of Gemini. But just before then, right through the first 9 or 10 days of the month, Mars, which continues in a very visible part of your situation and has given you a lot more clout and authority in the previous 4.5-5 weeks before June, well, that's in an opposition to Pluto. If you cast your mind back to the issues that you've been dealing with over the 2 or 3 years preceding 2021, a lot of it was trying to gain greater respect, particularly around family or emotional boundaries. And I think if something still isn't quite working for you, the combination of Mars and Pluto can see you a lot more assertive. People know you as being the natural diplomat of the Zodiac, and you really do have a natural ability to tune into others very skillfully. But this particular aspect is quite warlike, and if you feel that someone still is overriding your sensitivities, you may feel that the truth, which the ninth house does represent, really does need to be spoken. But with Neptune providing that blurry edge, it is going to be really important to get your details right, because as the solar eclipse occurs on the 10th, which will provide a backdrop of energy over the last half of the year, it too is influenced by Neptune. I think what this essentially means for me is that you have learnt to be very sacrificing since 2012, but there is only so much you can do. And I feel that if there has been situations where people have just been assuming of your goodwill, your collaboration, your cooperation, your service, if you like, and they're not really respecting that you have your own situation, you have your own demands more personally to deal with, this opposition between Mars and also Pluto can see you pushing back in a big way. But the solar eclipse is asking you to really embrace the concept of your personal freedom and independence and authenticity, not just this month, but for the rest of 2021. But you may have to force off any sense of guilt if you feel that you are being more single-minded. So I think that's the challenge for a lot of Libran or Libran ascendant people. However, on the 11th, there's a great news story because Mars moves from Cancer, where it's in its fall, and into the sign of Leo, which is really glamorous, very charismatic. And for you, this represents your sector of friendship. Now, because Mars is very much about the ego, in the 11th house, where it will be from the 11th for 6 weeks, is much more about cooperation. So I think the friendship part of your situation can really come to life, and you could take a leading role in a very positive way. But on the 14th, Saturn, which is in your 5th house, the sector of romance, the sector of creativity and personal expression, and has been in a retrograde since last month, that meets an exact square with Uranus. Now, they've broadly been clashing since the second week of January. And we've seen a lot of outspoken protests, haven't we? People are being much more strident about asserting their needs, whether this is fishermen, whether it's people with particular viewpoints around vaccination or mask wearing, or it's more to do with political demonstrations. We've seen a lot of that this year in general, not least with Capitol Hill. So if there is a situation in your life where you feel that your freedom to express yourself is being cramped by someone who's quite clingy, quite possessive, but doesn't necessarily contribute as much in a dedicated way as you do, I feel it can reach a crunch point right at the middle of this month. But it's possible that this has been building up for some time. Now, from the 20th, when the Sun moves to the top of your horoscope, replacing Mars but joining with Venus, he also goes into a glorious alliance with Jupiter for the next 6 days. If you are looking to apply for a job, and the restlessness that's created at the start of the month by that gathering of planets in Gemini is about where you work, I feel that you've got a brilliant window of opportunity to manifest something of great benefit to you. Also, your ruler Venus is in an opposition with Pluto in week 3. That means if you need to be quite charming, but also quite tactical, I don't want it to sound cynical, but sometimes we have to try and understand the politics in the workplace, then that too gives you a chance to frame your skills in a way which someone can become more receptive to you, because Venus, your ruler, is very much about being more diplomatic, but with Pluto there as well, it's a case of the iron fist in the velvet glove if you are wanting to reach for the stars. But on the 20th, Jupiter also goes into a retrograde, which will last through till the 17th of October. And it's going to be in your 6th house of work through to the end of July, the 28th to be precise. And it is true that when Jupiter slows down, generally it does see the financial economy slowing down too. But I think as we come out of the lockdown in various places in the world, there is also going to be a new reality about how we work. And Jupiter is very much about philosophies, but don't underestimate the benefits of the trine with the Sun from the 20th to the 26th, despite this retrograde. Fortunately, on the 22nd, Mercury ends its retrograde, but it doesn't come out of shadow until the 26th. So if there is something you're trying to unravel or speed forwards around a contractual issue, it may all still seem to have been moving at the speed of a glacier, but it can all come together as this month draws to a close. There is a full moon on the 24th, which reflects that opposition between Mars and Pluto and Venus and Pluto, because it goes across the same axis. The Sun in the 10th, the Moon in the 4th. But the Moon isn't that happy in Capricorn, so this can be a little bit of a knotty lunation, but it is supported positively by Jupiter. So I think just toggling to make sure that you've got the right balance between your interaction with the world and how it feels for you is the key over the following 2 weeks. On the 25th, however, Neptune does go into a retrograde. Over the next 5 months, if anyone puts a big guilt trip on you about what you do, what you don't do, and all the rest of it, just don't be fearful of pushing back. The key with Neptune is to make sure that we're factually on the ball. So if you prepare for any such opposition like that, then it will be something that you can anticipate. But from the 26th to the 30th, Mars, gloriously magnificent in the sign of Leo, does come into an opposition with Saturn in your sector of play. I think if your direction of life, which the 11th house represents, isn't clarifying, isn't coming together as quickly as you would like, your goals seem in some way inhibited or blocked, a huge sense of frustration could come into your being from the 26th to the 30th. But you know, if you do need to push back and really make people absolutely aware of what you will or won't do, what you will be doing is benefiting from all the astral lessons that you've been accumulating over the last 3 or 4 years. Being a good guy is a lovely thing in life. The problem is that old maxim, if you give someone an inch, they take a mile, is something that you should bear in mind. So it's really not that you don't want to be decent, it's that other people aren't as decent as you. And I think really the opposition between Mars and Saturn is just saying, look, if you do need to be a bit feistier and articulate exactly how it is, whether it's in a love relationship, a family setting, or it's around a friendship or group involvement, or even at work, then don't feel fearful about pushing back. Now on the 26th, Mercury comes out of shadow, and if you have been waiting to complete on an important situation, I think it will come nicely into shape just as this month is counting down, which I think will absolutely delight you. But with that solar eclipse this month, providing a backdrop for the next 6 months, it is very important that you're very clear about what liberates you, what makes you feel free, what makes your heart sing. And don't let Neptune's cloying mist stop you from being the person you truly want and need to be.